I'm going to go through another 9-mark question, and this is with using tropical storms. So this question says, with reference to one or more tropical storms you have studied, assess the extent to which exogenous factors, so that's relationships with other places, assisted with the response to the hazard created. So the first thing to notice, and this is really important in all your questions, is what is it asking you to make reference to? So here it's saying you can make reference to one or more tropical storms that you have studied. So you don't have to use both, but you must use at least one case study in your answer. So this means you need to include specific facts and specific figures in your answer. So this is why it's really, really important that you do know these case studies in lots of detail. It's then asking you about the exogenous factors which have helped with the management process and recovery of the tropical storm. So how have those relationships with other places helped with the management? So with these 9-mark questions, you can include a brief introduction. Remember though, you have only got 11 minutes to answer this question, so it would just want to be very, very brief. So you could introduce the hurricane that you're going to use. So you could say something like, Hurricane Maria occurred on the 20th of September in 2017. It was a Category 4 storm with winds of up to 150 miles per hour. It occurred in Puerto Rico, which is an island territory of the US. So just 2 brief sentences introducing which case study you are going to use. So for this question, I have decided that I'm going to use Maria. I'm thinking this because it's a poor country. It needed help from other places in order to manage what happened. So you could make your introduction quite relevant to the question. So you could say something like, almost half the residents live below the poverty line. This makes them a very poor country. Therefore, their ability to cope with large tropical storm is very low, and they'll rely on help from other places. So you've made your introduction relevant. It's always helpful, I find, to actually use the question to help you structure your answer. So you could say, one exogenous factor that assisted with the response to Hurricane Maria was. So you're using the question to help you structure your answer. So when I was looking at this question, I thought the first exogenous factor that I would use would be before the hurricane, so in preparation. So in the case study, it says that some residents were able to flee and stay with family in the United States. So that's their connection with another place. So you could talk about that, but then link it to the question. So how has that actually helped with the response? Well, it means that less people would be in direct danger. So there would be less people to try and find shelter for, food for, after the event had happened. So it's their connection with another place, the US, it's their connection with their families there, and it meant that they were able to flee. Then you could say maybe another exogenous factor was the way in which they sought help from other places. Or aid. And then you can add in some specific facts and figures from your case study. So you could talk about the help that they got from Mercy Corps and World Central Kitchen. And then you could say how many meals were actually delivered to those hard-hit communities. FEMA were another important exogenous factor. What specific aid did they provide? You could talk a little bit about the insurance. But make sure you keep it relevant to the question. How did that assist with the response? So by providing those meals to the hard-hit communities, they were assisting those people who had been left with no clean water, no food, no shelter. And then you want a brief conclusion. Again, just a few sentences answering the actual question. So using what you said, how important were those exogenous factors? So I suspect if you were using Maria, they're extremely important. If you'd chosen to use Harvey, it might be that they weren't as important. How much help did they get from other areas? Or was the help mostly provided from the places that it hit? But remember, you have about 11 minutes. So it's not going to be anywhere near as detailed as it would be if it was a 20-mark question. You just need to start answering the question straight away. Don't mess about with too much of an introduction and just focus on exactly what it's asking you. So here, how important are those factors, and using your case study and putting in those facts and figures from your case study.